like to call to order the September 8th, 2022 Vision Zero Advisory Committee meeting. We had to wait for quorum now that Larry and Craig have blessed us with their presence. And there was traffic, so we have work to do, obviously. Yeah, right. So if you could please call the roll, I'd appreciate it.
I did just want to note for you all today, our microphones have been a little finicky, so they might take a little delay before you see the red light, but just wait for the red light and then you're good to go. At this time, I'm only asking those VSAC members attending in person to respond by saying here when I call your name. I want to remind you to unmute your microphones by pushing the bottom on the base prior to responding. Alternates, please also state your name if you are attending on behalf of a VSAC representative. Tracy Phelps.
Here.
Bruce Rosenzweig.
Here.
Thank you. And Bruce will get to you just in a moment when we attend to online attendees. Craig Pinder.
Here.
Ted Goodenough.
Here.
Joanne Oliva.
Here.
Joanne Scaria is absent. Fadi Nassar. JC Beery. David Willich.
Here.
Jean Matthews.
Here.
Bruce Goyton. Thank you. Michael Owens. Christian Santa Gonzalez.
Here.
John Roach.
Here.
Larry Wallace.
Here.
The city of Delray, Amy Alvarez is absent. Stephanie Thoburn.
Here.
Perfect. We do have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any modifications to the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair. The following members are requesting VSAC permission to participate remotely. Michael Owens due to staffing shortages at the school district and Bruce Rosenzweig due to medical reasons.
Are there any objections to having Michael and Bruce participate remotely from the board? Seeing none, these members are approved to participate remotely. Please mark their attendance in the minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes? Next item. No. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, Christian makes a motion. Second.
Michael Owens, second. Oh, okay.
John Roach, second. He beat you. So then the minutes are approved. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I did that a little backwards. So next item is general comments and public comments on the agenda.
There are no public comments at this time, Madam
Okay,
Chair.
so then we don't need to go through that. So couple comments here. Bruce Guyton. Where's Bruce? Is he here?
Bruce is absent today, but Chris is filling in.
Okay, Chris is newly appointed as, are you the alternate, Chris? Mr. Walker? Well, welcome to our meeting. And I see JC walking in. We're happy you're here. And so I have, before we go, we do have some comments from the board. Does anybody have any comments? I do have one item I wanted to share. Don Roach?
Yeah. Thank you. First of all, apologize for my absence at our last meeting, but thank you for the nomination and the election as vice chair. I greatly appreciate that. Looking forward to that opportunity. Also, just a couple items for my fellow colleagues on the board. If there's anyone who has any experience in a couple of items, if you could forward information to me, it'd be greatly appreciated. First is, and it probably relates to more of our urban municipalities or jurisdictions, but anybody who has any adopted regulations or policies or what have you with regards to maintaining pedestrian connectivity through construction sites or adjacent to construction sites. I'd certainly be interested to see what other jurisdictions have. Obviously with the building boom going on and a lot of it happening in the downtown of West Palm, you know, that's often a challenge that we're experiencing is, you know, the request of the developer versus the needs and the users of the rights of way, and especially the pedestrians. So if anybody has any experience or policies in their jurisdictions that they could forward, that'd be greatly appreciated. And kind of on that same vein with regards to signalization or notification of pedestrian crossings at garage exits. Obviously the more parking garages that get built, and the conflicts at the sidewalk level and so forth, we've seen a number of different things that have been implemented throughout the country and things like that. But I'm just curious from a local perspective if anyone has any experience in implementing that in their regulation or policies. So any information you could forward would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
I know just from our perspective, Jupiter's not urban, but as far as development approvals, those types of things of pedestrian connectivity are addressed as part of the development approval. So that we address them specifically for the case at hand, but we don't have anything specific in our regulations. Is there anybody else that has comments from the board? No, JC? I have one item I was excited to share. I don't know. Oh, yes, it's here there's a couple of aerials. I just wanted to share this with everyone. I didn't know if others since we're streaming could see any of these pictures, but this is a new roundabout that the county and the town installed in Abacoa. And it's on Central Boulevard where there's one-way pairs and a huge right of way. We've had some really significant, traffic conflicts as well as fatalities at this intersection of University. So it's on Central Boulevard and University. So if you look at the aerial, I'll describe it for you, Mr. Goodenough. It is two one-way pairs, a major intersection that includes about almost 200 feet of right-of-way. And in between the medians is a large retention area that is very linear. So we've had, and then towards the west is where our town center is, Roger Dean Stadium, and towards the east is our major arterials such as Military Trail. So this road gets a lot of conflicts. But what happened, and one that was very tragic with a grandfather and his grandson on the way to Roger Dean, and he didn't know where to go and got confused. And unfortunately, the grandson passed away because of it. And it brought a lot of attention and desire from the council to want to do something and work with the county. So what came up, you can see the before on the page below. It was basically 2T intersections, two intersections that were plus signs. So I can explain that a little bit better, not 2T intersections. But Central Boulevard was going really fast. I mean, I know I've been next to people going 80 miles per hour on Central at times because it's just so, it was designed to be 2 lanes on both sides, and it goes really fast for pedestrian oriented community. So the county and our traffic engineers came up with this, what we call a peanut or a dog bone about. And I think Fadi, maybe you've seen this. We were a little skeptical because it's unique. It's shaped like a peanut. It basically is a roundabout in this large intersection, this large right of way. And so we were a little skeptical, but after a year of its being constructed, when it got first put in, there was a lot of confusion, a lot of complaints from our residents. I'm sure some of you who live in Abacoa have experienced this, but the bottom line is that the traffic conflicts are down, the traffic accidents are down, almost 75% reduction in overall traffic, injury, accidents, the crash rates are down. The total crash frequencies are down from 69%. We were having on average 13 accidents at this location annually, and they're down to 4. The crash rate went down from 1.7 to 0.46. And then but most important, which was interesting, is that the severity of the crashes that exist have gone down significantly, because basically what's happened in my observations is people are confused with the friction and they slow down, which is what we should be doing even in suburban settings. So I just wanted to share that. I think, we're all skeptical, but it's a success given our studies that we've done. And I just also wanted to thank the county.
Was it the configuration of the right of way that drove the shape?
Yes, so
Because
the
you didn't have the traditional significant right of way needed for a true roundabout.
yeah, and if you look at our right of ways in Jupiter, they're huge. They're actually bigger than I think they need to be, because you can get a lot of speed in them. They're supposed to slow you down. But because we have retention in these areas, it constricted the interior circle basically and turned it into this dog bone, what we call a dog bone about. So that's all I had. Is there anybody else that wanted any comments to share? Okay, so we have the VZAC liaison report that's next, and Mr. Ruscher is with us.
Yes, thank you, everybody. I'll try to get through the liaison report quickly because it is quite extensive this month. We've had some movement on the TPA staff for mobility. We are proud to appoint Valentina Facus to the lead pedestrian and bicycle coordinator position. She will also be serving as your Vision Zero Action Committee liaison coordinator. She is currently in Boston at the National Association of City Transportation Officials, or NACTO conference, with our executive director. So we're proud to have her on as the coordinator for you all and as the liaison. I myself am also serving in a role as a deputy director of multimodal, and I'm happy to be here serving in this role on that team. We'd like to extend a congratulatory note to the town of Juno Beach, who adopted their Vision Zero resolution on August 24th, joining 7 other municipalities and the Palm Beach TPA in doing so as well. We will have additional congratulatory notes to share next month as we receive the resolutions from other municipalities who have joined as well. We'd like to also extend congratulations to Brightline, who received a $25 million raise grant to fund safety improvements along the entire FEC corridor. This is not simply within Palm Beach County. This is along the entire corridor all the way up the East Coast. So it's a coordinated effort between the entire state, DOT central office, the various districts, and with Brightline. Connors Highway has a public meeting that will be taking place tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. So if you know anybody that lives in the Glades communities, I would encourage you to please let them know about this information, which is available from the FDOT's website. The TPA is going to be celebrating Parking Day next Friday. We are going to be hosting a closed parking space, having what I would like to call I want to call it a bike oasis. And in one of our parking spaces, we'll be doing air brakes and chain quick checks on bikes and teaching individuals how to look at things on their bike and make sure that it's functioning properly. We'll have coffee. And so if anyone's interested, come on down to the TPA between 8 and 10 o'clock next Friday. We'll be sharing. One of the projects of interest to the TPA has been delayed due to some iron sewer pipe work, which unfortunately has been hit for material shortages. So there's an unexpected delay for that project. There's more information available from the DOT. This project, it's one of the things that we've been tracking for quite some time, and it'll include protected bike lanes. So we're just interested in for that one in particular. Additionally, the I-95 at Glades Road to Virgin Diamond Interchange is set to open on September 30th. Full schedule is posted on the DOT's website as well. We're really excited about it because it's our first Virgin Diamond Interchange to be opening in the county. So we would encourage you all to take a drive, walk, bike through the diverging diamond interchange. I know this committee's been very interested in these DDIs, as they've been called. And we encourage everybody to get a firsthand look, touch, and feel on that interchange. We'd like to welcome Mr. David Deck to the SFRTA as the new executive director. He's previously served as the vice president of rail operations for Cap Metro. Cap Metro is the city of Austin's transit operator, and they recently passed a $10 billion transit and other referendum, including of housing and other infrastructure projects, to really transform and try to get 50% of people taking active transportation everywhere in the city. So we're really proud to have David in this area serving as our executive director for the SFRTA. Almost through it. All right. The Reconnecting Communities Grant is going to close its application portal on October 13th. So if any particular municipality is interested in the Reconnecting Communities Grant program, we encourage you all to find more information at transportation.gov/grants. The TPA Governing Board meeting will be held on September 15th at 9 a.m. And you all know where to find that information, of course, at the palmbeachtpa.org. Thank you. And I'd be remiss to say it wasn't brought up during board member comments, but one of our members this will be his last meeting. And I'd like to congratulate Mr. Larry Wallace for accepting a position at HDR. So Larry, if you'd like to give us a little bit more information and expand on that, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, it was a very difficult decision to, make the move over to, they call it the private sector or the dark side. I was at the department for almost 17 years. I started out as a roadway CAD technician and then worked in maintenance as the maintenance memorandum of agreement coordinator, did a lot of maintenance agreements with the local municipalities, as well as the ADA coordinator, Title VI coordinator. So I worked in the second floor, first floor, and then the third floor as the OMD, Office of Mobile Development, bicycle pedestrian coordinator. So I worked in all three levels of the building. And then as Steve Braun, my director, said, you can go work now at the annex building next door across the street at HDR. So no, it's bittersweet, but I'm looking forward to the next chapter. And it's been a pleasure working with everyone here. I know Valerie, I'm not sure if she's able to make it here, but I'm looking forward to continuing working with her and this group, and Brian, our continued relationship with the department, and not only at the private sector side, but I'll be working a lot of collaborative efforts with the cities, the municipalities, and the counties and the TPA. So hopefully it's continued to be a long-term business relationship moving forward. Thank you again, everyone.
Just working there.
Yeah, just work.
It's okay to not know what acronyms are in transportation because there are so many of them.
Well, congratulations
But
to you.
It's a
Good luck.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And congratulations, Brian Rusher,
thank you. Chair
with
Stiller.
your new promotion to deputy director. I think it was just last meeting, it was announced you were the bicycle pedestrian coordinator. So wow, that's pretty impressive.
Thank you very much. It was a short turnaround, yes, but no meeting in August. So that's probably what it feels like. And I do see another card from Tracy as well. Well, he wanted to make a comment, I believe.
Oh, Tracy.
Yes, I just hope my information is more up to date than yours. In fact, in the matter of the DDI, because we haven't timed the signals or even made up the cabinet for the contractor yet, but we had talked to them last week, and their planned opening for it is November 2nd. And if they can't do it November 2nd, it's going to be November 9th. That was last
you.
week. So I hope my information is more up to date. If not, then I don't know how they're going to open it without a traffic signal cabinet and without timing for that traffic signal
Sure.
cabinet. Either that, or I'm going to be working a lot of hours next couple of weeks getting that ready for them.
Well, I hope we're not putting you in an uncomfortable position, Tracy.
You did. I'm like, what?
We received the update from DOT, so we'll follow up with them and
Okay,
confirm.
yeah,
Thank you.
we talked with the contractor last week, and that's what he had told us. So we'll see.
Great.
I'm excited too, by the way, for that to open. I'm sure most of the city residents won't be too excited, but I am.
Well, we'll just have to see how it feels to drive a diverging diamond intersection. I've driven one once it scared me. So the next item that we have, oh, I'm sorry, David. Please.
I just had a quick question for Larry. Considering Connors Highway, I actually drive that road all the time. It's terrible. And it's in portion of it's closed right now, and it's a hurricane evacuation route and everything else. It is like so undulating and terrible. I mean, resurfacing is really not going to do anything. Are they going to go down to the sub base or down to the base or anything like that?
That's for Connors Highway. So
Yeah.
is that A1A? Is it A1A?
No, it's the one that goes to Canal Point.
So that's near Bell Glade?
Yes.
Okay, Pahokee. Potentially, I know there's a lot of muck in that area. I'll have to look at the typical section package and I can send it to Brian and Brian can circulate it. But that's a good question. I'll write the notes down.
Okay, I was just
Yeah.
curious.
No, that's good question. And while I have the floor, I found out what HDR stands for. It is abbreviates for Hensington, Hensington, Durham, and Richardson Inc., founded in 1950. So,
Are they
Me
a
neither.
private transportation?
it's an engineer,
Consulting?
it's an engineering firm. They're actually awarded the design contract for Southwest 10th Street in Broward County, as well as a signature bridge down in Miami. So definitely looking for the opportunity to work collaboratively with the TPA on potential projects upcoming.
Great, congratulations.
Thank you again. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Are we good? I swear I scanned to make sure everybody gets heard. So the next item is our only action item for today. It is the amendment number 1 of the TPA's fiscal year 2023 to 2027 Transportation Improvement Program. And Jason Price, the TPA TIP Coordinator, will present this item.
Good morning, everybody. So thank you for being here and hearing me for this this action item. Today, I'm going to be presenting amendment number 1 to the Transportation Improvement Program for fiscal year 23 through 27. In addition to the roll forward report, there's a request to modify the length of 2 projects. And we'll go over that in the slides following. And this amendment 1, the roll forward amount, the roll forward report is a request from FDOT, and it's an annual request, and it's always the first amendment of each after the adoption of the Transportation Improvement Program. What the roll forward is it's taking funds that are not obligated in fiscal year 22 and rolling them forward to fiscal year 23. So where we have a TIP document that's from fiscal year 22 to 26, and when those funds are unexpended or are not obligated and they need to be continued to stay with the project and move to the next TIP, this is that action of taking those funds from the fiscal year 22 to 26 TIP and rolling forward those funds into fiscal year 23 to create continuity with those funds between the 2 documents. And the total amount being rolled forward in this particular amendment is about 114 million, and there's about approximately 60 projects that are going to be impacted. And with the rolling forward of funds, it is an increase in the funding for those projects. And so that's what also triggers an amendment or which triggers a formal amendment. So the information you see on the slide here is when you have the conditions that require an amendment, which is deleting a project or adding adding funds to a project, or at least changing the cost of a project. And that's what's happening here today. And as a reminder to the group that this amendment only impacts the projects that are outlined in the roll forward report from FDOT. There's plenty of other projects that are in the TIP that are not impacted by this, and only the projects that are listed are the ones that are impacted. Of the 114 million that is being rolled forward, about 79 or 80 million of that 114, which is the lion's share of state road modification projects. And that's followed by a few smaller amounts by railroads and strategic intermodal system capacity projects. Totaling railroads is about 16 million and SIS capacity is about 11 million. So to get into some of the details with a couple of the projects that have the highest roll forward amounts, and looking at the screen here, there's just a few projects that I'm illustrating, but to look at the columns from left to right, the current tip that we're operating under that we're not operating under it, but we will be in October. And once the federal fiscal year ends, the current tip, so the tip document that we approved in June, which is the fiscal year 23 through 26 tip, that's the first column. When we roll forward the funds from the previous tip from 22 into this document, it'll increase the final number, which is the new tip amount. So the middle number is the roll forward amount being added to the fiscal year 23, and the last column is the total amount. And you can see the lion's share is the first couple of projects, which is the State Route 7 from 60th to North Lake Boulevard, followed by the other State Route 7 project from Okeechobee Boulevard to 60th Street. Those are probably the two biggest ones with the most amount being rolled forward. And then that's followed by the Boca Raton Passenger Rail Station and military at Forest Hill Boulevard. In addition to the roll forward, FDOT had also requested a couple of length changes to two different projects. And those are going to be Atlantic Avenue from 441 west of Lyons Road. There's a few additions to this project. You can see that there's a north, south, and east, west leg to this particular project. So it increased from 1 to 2.2 just to capture the other portions of the project. And then the second project is Beeline Highway from Martin County line to Old Dixie Highway. It was a much larger stretch that they were looking at, and this is an ITS kind of an ITS project. They're coordinating the signals or doing upgrades in this particular area. And it was 23 miles to begin with. And then when they looked at the project a little more detailed, they found the specific areas that they wanted to focus on and then phase out the projects to do the 23 miles in total, but they're doing it in phases. And the first phase is going to capture about 1.6 miles. And with that, I'll take any questions at this time. And as a reminder, it's an action item that will require a vote at the end of the discussion.
Jean, I saw your card up first.
Will any of the project extend west of Lyons Road? Will any, yeah, because we have West Delray Regional Park at the end of Atlantic. It's a great 313 acre park.
Yes, the description says west of Lyons Road, so it will go.
But will it go west of 441? Because on the map, it showed up there. It looks like it goes, a couple 100 feet beyond 441.
Yeah. Can we bring up the slide to look? I know that they had to change the description to get both legs of the, it's more like a T.
Yeah.
So you can see it at the top.
See if you go by the gray shaded area, that's where our 313 acre park is. And so it looks like it goes a little beyond the intersection.
Yes.
I just didn't know whether it did or not. And it's an adequate 2-lane road right now,
Okay.
but there's turn lanes there. So, okay, I'm just curious.
Mhm.
John Roach.
For the Beeline project, that's a substantial reduction in the length of the project.
Correct.
And you're saying that it's a phased, is the design the same and they're just building a portion of the previous design, or is the design changing? And is the funding amount the same? So the funding for a 23-mile project is being consolidated into 1.6 miles, or is the funding reduced, or?
The funding does not change. So with the funding not changing, you can clearly see that the existing length is inaccurate because the total cost of the project is only 2 million. So with that, with it only being 2 million, I think they looked at the whole corridor and then fine tuned it down to 1.6 miles for the first phase. And then they're going to do the other phases of the project, which I would imagine will be consistent because it's a traffic management system. So it's more or less probably technology and coordinating signals and that type of, it's not infrastructure based in terms of widening lanes or changing the configuration of the roadway. So what I heard from the TAC members yesterday or Marcia from FDOT is that they're going to phase it out. They're going to do the whole 23 miles. They're just going to do it in phases. And in terms of the design, until I see the next couple phases to say, is it going to be different? Then I'd have an answer. But for now, I only know that they're only addressing 1.6 miles in the segment that you see on the screen, although it's going to be much larger than that all the way out to Martin County line. So I can follow up with them and find out, will the other segments be consistent with this segment to find out if the intent of the project is still the same throughout the entire corridor.
Well, I think it's also of if a presentation was made about, these improvements happening along the length of this corridor, are those improvements that they presented the same, but they're only doing 1.6 miles of
Correct.
it? I'm not so concerned. That is a secondary concern of consistency throughout the 23 miles.
Okay,
But more importantly, are they changing the design from what was previously presented, if it was presented, for that 1.6 miles that they are now going to move forward with?
yeah, that
Or is it
wasn't-
just a matter of implementing 1.6 of
Correct.
the 23 that was previously presented?
That's correct. Because none of the financials have changed. The financial, the funding amounts would change if they did change the design of the project and they added or deleted portions of the project. They would make changes to the funding for the project as well. So, and they have not indicated any of that. It was only it was just an administrative change to change the miles, the length of the project. So I don't suspect any of the design criteria or any of the actual project has changed. It's just a change in the length to focus on that particular length.
Okay.
So the project is not changing. It's just changing in scope in terms of the length, not necessarily the design of the project. But I can confirm that and I can follow up with you as well to see and ask FDOT, in addition to the length change, is any of the project components or scope of the project changing as well, and confirm that. Because I don't really know, but I know from the financial aspect of it, usually when they add or take something away from the project, the financial aspect will change. I'll see a change in the funding amounts because they'll calculate that part of it.
But you would also assume that if you're building 1.6 of a 23-mile project, that the funding would have changed also.
Correct. And I
I know
didn't see
things are
that.
more expensive now too, so.
Right. So I didn't see any of that. None of the financials have changed. So that leads me to assume, but I have to confirm, that none of the design criteria have changed for the project. Or else we would have seen a corresponding change in the funding amounts as well. And I
Oh.
think the 23 was just them looking at the overall project and then narrowing down the scope to the parts that they want to focus on first.
We'll look forward to your response after that. Larry, did you still have something?
I did, Madam Chair. I was just sending an email over to Brian just to clarify for Jean's comment. Because I was inquiring about it as well with Tuck Lee, who's the FDOT PM for the line for the Atlantic Avenue from US 1 to east of Lyons Road. Brief description of the project says reconstruct existing 2-lane roadway into a 4-lane road suitable for an ultimate 6-lane typical section from State Road 7 to east of Lyons Road. Relocate the existing L34 LWOD canal and impose it to match the LWDD standard canal section widening for an additional through lane west of State Road 7 intersection and east of the Lyons Road intersection extends the project limits to transition to the existing lane configuration in these areas. And then lastly, widen State Road 7 south and north of the intersection with Atlantic Ave to provide an additional through lane and an additional northbound right turn lane. And then finally, replace the signalization at the intersection of State Road 7 and modify the signalization at intersection with Lyons Road. So it is a reconstruction project. I went ahead and forwarded this, Brian, over to you if you'd like to circulate it to staff. Just wanted to clarify that with you, Gene.
Okay.
I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
You're
And-
welcome.
And that's great. So if we have special events, which we aren't really planning, but if we did, there's more traffic flow to be able to exit the park.
Correct. And
Four
with
41.
the key point on that, Gene, actually is it says to provide an ultimate 6-lane typical section. So it not only going from 2 to 4, but potentially from 2 to 6.
Which it really needs.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Tracy, do you have something?
Not much now. He kind of, I was just gonna comment about that. When you're widening one side of the road, it's common to widen the other side of the road, so all the lanes line up. There are requirements for offsets from one side of a through lane to the other, on one side of the road to the other side. There's only a certain amount of offset, degrees offset you can, supposed to be. So if you're widening the road, Atlantic Road from 2 to 4 to 6 lanes, you really gonna probably have to do something on the west side so that all those lanes line up. That's pretty much what he said. So
No,
there
and-
will be some, I would think there would be something there. I'm not that familiar with the project. But it's
No.
just common engineering practice.
That makes sense. I was driving in Miami and all of a sudden you go from like 3 lanes down to 1 lane. So you're going straight and you're like, so is everybody else. You know, so that makes a lot of sense to prevent accidents. Thank you.
David Willick.
I just had a question. It said there was $27,000 in TA funds carried over. Does that get added to the next year, or is that earmarked for a project or something?
No, so the funds that you see rolled forward was funds that was already programmed or obligated for those specific projects. And when the project straddled different year, it straddles the 22 to 23 fiscal year. So those funds are existing funds programmed on the project, just being rolled forward to stay with the project in the new tip document for 23. So it's funds that are already programmed on the project and they're already obligated to the project or programmed for the project. They just need to be advanced to the next fiscal year so they can be expended to construct the project. So they're already dedicated to the project. They're not new funds. It's just existing funds from the previous tip document being rolled forward into the new document that we're going to be operating in October. So there's no new funds. It's just the same funds just being carried forward.
Okay, I thought maybe we had an extra 27 grand.
We do expect additional funding for TA this funding cycle this year, but
Oh,
we
great.
don't know exactly how much, but I suspect that we'll have more than we typically have in previous years. So we're looking forward to that part.
That's wonderful.
Sure.
Thank you.
Good. John Roach, did you have something? You had your card up.
No, that was from before, but I will clarify and won't come as any surprise to a lot of you that I will be voting against the amendment the roll forward based upon the inclusion of the State Road 7 and the city's objection to this. So
Understood.
I have a couple of questions. One is, how does the roll forward compare with previous years? Is this a normal amount of roll forward? Is it more?
It's on average.
It's on average?
When I change the slides and I look at the numbers, it's not very far off. I mean,
Okay,
there's a few $1 million plus or minus, but that's the nature of what we deal with. It's in the tune of millions of dollars. So if it's 10 or 15 millions in the scope of 100 million, that's kind of how it works out. And then the number of projects changes sometimes because some are bigger ticket items like State Road 7, which was like 60 or 70 million being rolled forward to the next year, which is existing funds on the project. It just needed to move forward. So sometimes the project number changes a little bit, but overall it's It's in line with with previous years.
Okay. And then this may be a dumb question, but what is ITS? When you were referring to the beeline reduction?
Traffic management systems is what they had listed as the scope of work, but ITS is information, what is it?
Intelligent.
Intelligent Transportation Systems, or ITS. It's like dynamic messaging signs or any kind of additional infrastructure or feedback signs that help you navigate the roadway, or just intelligent transportation system stuff like coordinated signals. It's basically just like the technology on the corridor to make it either safer or more efficient. Being coordinated signals, so the signals all talk to one another, or feedback signs for if you're going over the speed limit, or dynamic messaging signs giving you information along the roadway of what to expect in advance.
Okay.
That's kind of like ITS infrastructure
Okay.
examples.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful for the public as well if we, when we have those acronyms, I feel like, me as a planner, there's a lot of acronyms and we were chided a lot during our public hearings from our elected officials over, having, jargon that's accessible and understandable from the public. If we want more engagement,
Right.
might be helpful to say what those are, or give us all a little cheat sheet or something, so we know what's
Yeah.
going on.
I always, ITS is something that I use in terms of describing this project, but they don't necessarily list it. They just say arterial traffic management systems. But I kind of intuitively think that that's what it is in terms of a traffic management system. But
Okay. No, I think that's good. I also think that when our board becomes larger with, the intent and goals of the Vision Zero Advisory Committee, when we have more municipalities, more police officers, that we should be aware that our jargon gets very technical. And, if we want to be more welcoming, we should have that kind of engagement with the public. So.
yes.
all right,
And
thank you.
anytime during the presentation or anything that I may say that I used acronyms that you don't know, please let me know. I do try and kind of spell them out and explain them. I'm the CAC liaison for the Citizen Advisory Committee. So I do this on a regular basis of kind of explaining the terms that were used in transportation planning, because it is a litany of acronyms that you could use all day and really confuse people. So if at any time, please let me know and I can explain things to the best of my ability.
David Willett.
As somebody that drives Beeline all the time, when there's an accident, it's often a 40-mile detour. So hopefully these signs will tell you, accident 15 miles ahead, 20 miles ahead. So you could, do the detour previously instead of turning around, going 20 miles, taking the detour, coming back to exactly where you were. I mean, there are no parallel roads. There's nothing else out there. So I would hope that that's what this is going to do.
There's preserve.
There's room for bike lanes and pedestrian too.
Right. Oh, Jean.
This is off topic again, but Arden is on Southern Boulevard at 20 Mile Bend, just east of the FP&L plant in Palm Beach Aggregates, is 2,400 units. There's a proposal right now for an additional 900 units, which will touch it. It'll actually abut it. And it shows both Arden and this new development, which is Coulter Investments is buying it, shows widening, shows Lake Okeechobee Boulevard extending out there. Is that ever going to happen?
Maybe someone can get back with you on that one.
Yeah, we're not familiar at this moment with that particular development proposal, but if you send us some information, we can look at it and work with maybe the county and see what the plans are that have been submitted. So, or if it's included in the tip or others.
Yeah, we had actually brought this up before. and it was shot down by the Board of County Commissioners at the time. It could come back up again. We had the Okeechobee connector. It was going to connect over to Southern Boulevard. And it was essentially shot down, but it could come back.
Okay, well, I guess that, does that answer your question, Jean? Okay, so, but
Ted has his hand raised.
I don't
know
where my tent is. I just wanted to clarify, to make a document accessible when you're using initialism, which is what we use, initialism rather than acronyms. NASA is an acronym because it forms a new word. Initialism, let me take the first initial of these, but to make them accessible in a document, the first time it's used, it should have in parentheses what it's been.
What it is. Right, right.
very good. Thanks for the reminders. Oh, I forgot to ask for public comment.
There was no public comment.
Okay. Any additional, oh, I see Jean again. Tracy Phelps.
Arterial management can mean some of the things that he mentioned, mostly DMSs. CCTVs, Bluetooth, travel time devices, fire department.
Signal preemption.
It can mean a lot. It can actually mean performance measures for traffic signals, which is kind of software basic. It's just, it means a bunch of things put together to try to make traffic move smoothly. Your question, it will work if they have enough signs out there. If not, they don't have enough DMSs that aren't spaced properly, then you'll get stuck there and nothing's going to solve everything. I don't know if anybody else has had the privilege of being stuck on the turnpike. When the turnpike shut down, that's kind of, you have nowhere to go. So and they can't put a sign every mile, a DMS sign, because they're expensive. So, and it also depends on the operator, the TMC at the Palm Beach County, that they are actually watching those signs and watching the traffic out there, and are able to put the information on the signs. So there's a lot to go into that. Hopefully they do design it that will fit your needs. But nothing's foolproof.
Okay. So I need a recommendation to adopt the Amendment 1 of the TPA's fiscal year 2023 to 2027 Transportation Improvement Program. Have any motions? David, I see you're trying to motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Christian, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
That was John
And Chris.
and Chris. And Ted. Okay. With dissent from
Chris.
John, Chris. Okay.
Chris and Ted, could you provide a justification for the no vote, please?
Concerns with the Forest Hill and Military intersection improvement. It's going to be detrimental to our transit operations there.
To go forward with that, in most of the provinces in Canada, you cannot reconstruct something or do new construction that has a mixed use path. The road has its section, there's a barrier and pedestrians, then a barrier, then cyclists.
Thank you both.
Okay. So we're doing good. The next item, thank you. The next item are administrative items, and which is the governing board summary points. They're in your packet. There will be no presentation. The FDOT scheduling report, and our next meeting is October 6th. So put that on your calendar. And if there's nothing else, we can adjourn. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Be safe.
Thank you.